Hello there, welcome to The Price of Music, brought to you by Music Ally. If you want an easy guide to what's going on in the music industry and how it all works, then here we are, looking at the finances of the music industry and bringing you stories and comments from the pop biz in the past week. He's Stuart Dredge, I'm Joe Sparrow, and before we start with Stu's big number this week, we had a message from superfan Peter Gedge. Hi, Peter. And springing from our last episode on prediction markets, where you guess what's going to happen in the music world, Peter says, will Stu's big number be more than $1 billion next week? Yes or no? My rough calculation, looking at past numbers, is there's like about a 70% chance it will. So that's where I'm staking it. More than $1 billion. Stu, big number, please.
Well, it's £900,000.
Oh, no.
But there are definitely currencies you could convert that into where it'd be much more than $1 billion. So in essence, everyone's right. I don't know who gets the money from this, if there is any money.
I think Peter is the only winner here.
Yeah.
Okay. So 900,000.
Yeah, this is how much secondary ticketing firm StubHub has just been fined in the UK for illegal drip pricing. Which, alas, drip pricing has nothing to do with overcharging for whiny singer-songwriter gigs. Although this is basically the UK's competition watchdog. I love the word watchdog.
Yeah,
I want to be a watchdog. The CMA is fined StubHub £900,000, but also tried to refund 50,000 customers around £10 each. And this is about drip pricing. I guess if people need an explanation,
fill us in on the drip.
It's when you start to buy something, whether it's a concert ticket, an airline ticket, a hotel, and then at some point in the process later on, they go, oh, by the way, extra fees, extra things,
right?
And it ends up costing a lot more than you thought at the beginning. And this is something that people have been pushing back on and saying, you should just tell us the price at the beginning, including all fees.
And that's actually illegal now in the UK, isn't it, to do
Well, quite. And so this is what the thing. So apparently what happened is StubHub put its hands up and went, yep, sorry, fair cop gov.
Oops.
Which meant that it gets to settle this case early and it gets, I think, 40% reduction in the fine because it cooperated. So it kind of said, okay. But this comes after its US version settled a $10 million case with like the regulator there about deceptive pricing. So this is something all around the world where regulators are going, yeah, this is bad. Tell people what they're going to pay up front. Don't suddenly, because I think especially in a concert ticket, if you're excited about going to a gig, you're kind of like, I've got tickets, I'm in the queue, I'm there. And then it goes, by the way, 40 quid extra or 30 quid extra. And you're like, oh, but I'll still buy them because I'm at this point, but I feel things. So the crackdown against this, the regulators have got teeth and it's a good sign. And actually, to give StubHub their fair due, they cooperated and they've stopped doing it. And that's good too.
Big chunk of cash, isn't it? That's nearly £1 million fine plus refunds of over $500,000. Big old chunk of cash. So obviously the watchdog. I'm more of an ombudsman guy myself, but the watchdog is clearly taking this seriously. Good that StubHub collaborated, but surely they knew about this law.
Well, this is. So I'm not defending anyone here.
No.
But I think this is kind of the way things have been done. You bought an airline ticket, they, bounced a fee on you at the end. You bought, and this is long overdue being cleared up. But it just seems to have been the way a lot of companies did business, and it was seen as totally fine until it wasn't. And I think for fans, it's a good thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's
well, it's good for fans to know that when they go and buy a ticket now.
Yeah,
they really won't be showing the fee up front because no one wants to get fined £1 million. Right.
And in concert tickets especially, I think, because with an airline ticket, you just come out and go, well, I'm not buying that. But with a concert ticket, if you go, oh, I feel bad, I'm not going to buy this ticket now, you might lose your place in that queue and you can't buy a ticket and you can't go and see the... So there is I think music fans in particular are susceptible to having these fees bounced on them and not feeling they can say no.
But a lot of emotional pressure there, isn't there?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our big stories. And fair warning, it's a bit AI heavy this week, but in interesting ways.
Yes. And we'll try and keep it light, shall we? And
yes. And the first one is actually more about artists, isn't it? It's 31 groups representing artists and managers have written an open letter about AI music, but it's not addressed to AI companies. So who is it addressed to, Stu, and what is it about?
Yeah, well, this is like a bubbling debate, which we've kind of touched on before, I think. And it's focused on the rights holders of the music, the labels and the publishers. So, this is the background. People probably know it. Like the labels and publishers have been quite clear about what they expect from AI companies. They want to be asked permission to train on their music and they want to be paid for it. and they want transparency. They want the AI companies to tell them what they've trained on, And this letter is kind of coming from musicians and songwriters and artists saying, we'd like the same from you, labels and publishers. We'd like you to ask our permission if you're going to put our music into your deals with AI companies.
Yeah.
We'd like to be fairly paid. And we want transparency, understanding the deals you're signing and how it works for us. And this letter, so it was a bunch of different bodies who represent artists and songwriters and managers. So, the Ivers Academy, the MMF, all the kind of ones we talk about normally. And it made a few claims. It claimed that, for example, artists and songwriters are receiving letters from labels and publishers saying, we're going to opt you into our AI deals by default. So if you're signed to us, your stuff is going to be part of the deals we're signing.
Right.
With not so much, not an obvious, but you can opt out of them if you want to, or you can not be part of this.
So it's just a letter going to the artist saying, hey, by the way, your music's in an AI.
Well, that's kind of saying, sort of implying that this is part of it in done deal. It also says that a lot of new contracts being offered to artists and songwriters are including AI rights clauses. So essentially, you will let us license your work to AI, which I don't think that's a particularly evil thing. It's like a part of the traditional dance of contracts being like, we'd like this, this, and this, and then the artist
you can put a red line through it and send the contract back, can't you?
Yeah. So I think it makes sense if you're label to be trying to do this, saying, look, if we're releasing music, can we also include it in our deals without having to come back and do all the admin of asking you?
Although we'll say as well, there is this. We were just talking about ticketing and people feeling that they get the drip pricing, they still have to buy it because they don't want to miss out. We know what it's like for artists. You work so hard, you finally get offered a deal, you get given a contract that has something in it you don't like, and you're kind of very hesitant to cross it out and send it back because you're worried that the person offering you the deal will go, oh, okay, it's all off then. You don't get a deal after all. There's a lot of leverage there on one side, isn't there?
Yeah, and that's what essentially it's saying. Artists feel pressured to accept things. And it says they want more information about deals being signed so they can choose something. So it was interesting because this happened when I was about to go off for a week, wasn't it? And you were on and so I kind of wrote half the story, but you had to then summarize it for our audience. And this letter, it came out on a Monday morning, but the news of it was doing the rounds on the weekend because it was sent to journalists early. And the IFPI, the labels body, actually sent a statement to journalists that weekend saying, we hear there's a letter coming tomorrow. And so here's our statement. And that statement was essentially saying, look, we all share the same objectives here, guys. We all want stuff to be fairly. And it also says we're strongest when we're united as a music community, which is true. Like one of the ways you get politicians to do what you want to do is to be united in the industry. So labels and artists, everyone come together and say, we want this to happen. But there is disunity here. I think artists and songwriters, or a number of artists and songwriters don't entirely trust labels and publishers. And this goes back to some of the arguments about streaming music and the deals signed in those days. So it's kind of it's one of those things where I think it's an important argument to be having and a public argument to having, while at the same time, there are other things that artists, songwriters and labels and publishers are all pulling together on to demand of kind of, politicians. So both those things are possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, on one hand, we've heard this 1,000 times, haven't we? That artists want transparency, they want to be included in the conversation, and they want to be treated fairly, and they don't feel like any of those things are happening, and this is another iteration of that. I guess we're just going to see where this goes, but it's just another step in that journey towards having some sort of, I'm not going to use the word agreement, but some sort of resolution onto how AI platforms train on music. We're not there yet, are we?
Well, that's it. And I think it's one of as a journalist, I think about this a lot. I think if you're interviewing any new AI music company now, an important question, a necessary question is, what did you train on? Is it all kosher? And I think now when you're talking to labels and publishers, an important question is, how are you dealing with your artists with the AI deals? Your thing? How are you communicating with them? Do they have a chance to opt out and opt in? I think that's also a necessary question when you are talking to them. So I think that, and through that, we'll get to this point where everyone feels like things are fair and they've had full knowledge when they're signing up to something or signing a deal. So, yeah.
Okay. Speaking of music AI platforms, AI music company Suno is giving some money to musicians at last. And before the chorus of angels kicks in and with Hallelujah, there are some strings attached. What's this about, and what are those strings?
Well, this is part of Suno's charm offensive, I think. So, I mean, people would know who's doing it. It's the biggest AI music service. It's raised the most money, and it's worth the most money, according to investors, like billions of dollars. But that's made it the biggest target for the music industry's anger about AI companies training on stuff without asking permission and licensing it. And so it's on this charm festival. It's hiring people from the music industry. It's been kind of talking about how it wants to build models with them. And this new thing, it's called Spark, which is a really, I mean, I feel like there's been 700 incubators and accelerators called Spark in the past, haven't there? But it's for independent singers, songwriters, and producers who are using Suno to make music, but they're doing it under their own names. So it's not people, it's not virtual artists like the Velvet Sundown. You don't know who's behind it.
So there's got to be a human face in
there's got to be, yeah. You're using Suno, but you are releasing music yourself. And you get like there's going to be grants, money grants. There's going to be mentorship. There's going to be marketing support, and Suno's going to, which is kind of again par for the course for like an artist development scheme. And the catch, so what I love, I love about this. There's a clause in this. I think it's generally called "good vibes only." Is that correct?
It's literally called "good vibes only" in the contract.
Good vibes only, chaps. It's very much like is that they got to agree they won't make any statements or representations, either directly or indirectly, whether orally or in writing, that portrays Suno personnel, and/or any Suno product service in a negative light. So essentially, it's a non-disparagement clause, isn't it?
Yeah,
we will give you money, but you will not disparage us publicly. Which I feel like I'm on the side of the bad guys this week. But
yeah.
This is not that uncommon. If you take money from a brand or a thing,
right?
A non-disparagement clause is a well-known thing where you say, okay, but you won't slag us off in public after taking our money. So it's not that unusual. But the optics of it in this case, and I think MBW wrote one of their wonderful. Tim at MBW, the editor, he's got this amazing tone when he's going to rip into someone. It's it's sarcastic. He asks questions, rhetorical questions, and whenever I read Peace Flies, I'm like, I sit in and go, I'm going to get a cup of tea for this. I enjoy it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So he particularly was good at, but it was basically saying, look, if you're saying you're the good guys, you maybe shouldn't be forcing people to not say you're the bad guys.
Yeah, there's an optics issue here, isn't there? Which is like, if you're trying to look good by doing this, and then you also crowbar this clause in under the vomit-inducing heading of good vibes only in the contract, you're going to come up looking worse. And of course, in the music industry, there's that kind of a rich history of people biting the hand that feeds them. Drake, very recently, of course, has taken his major label or is trying to sue his major label. The Sex Pistols notoriously just complained about all the labels they were on until they kept getting new signing fees from other ones. So, I mean, I think if Suno wants to be an actual music platform, they should probably encourage their artists to criticize. And also, I will say, on a serious note, right, what is art if it's not, like, if you're restricting artists from what they can say, is it truly art? And that sort of undermines the whole AI music thing.
Wow, but it is. So there's two things I think. One, I think the music industry is on slightly thin ice here in that, given the history of NDAs for stuff like sexual harassment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
you can't chuck too many stones out of glass windows. But the other thing I think is, if you are an artist who disagrees with Suno, has some concerns about it, if you're like a scissor,
yes,
you won't take their money and you won't do this, and you'll carry on criticizing. Yeah. So it's not going to shut anything down. And in a way, again, sort of looking ahead a bit, if we get to a point where Suno is suddenly a good guy, where Suno has signed licensing deals, then it will be a good thing that it's doing artist development support stuff like this. Like this is a good thing to be doing. It's just the timing of it at the moment when it's still being sued by two major labels, and it's a lot of artists are speaking out saying we are worried about this.
Yeah.
This clause was picked up on.
I note with interest that there is no detail on how many of these how many artists they're going to be giving money to, or how much money they're going to be giving them, or how much marketing support they're going to be giving them. Although, we can assume that Suno is rolling in cash.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the other thing is there is a decision for an artist considering this here. If they have any kind of established reputation, like think about Timbaland, whose music reputation is, he's Timbaland,
He defined the music of a whole generation of pop fans. Yeah.
But he's been getting a lot of backlash for acting as an ambassador for Suno.
Yeah.
And so if you're an artist who has a fan base already, it would be this is maybe something you think, well, hang on, if I do this, what are my fans going to think? Am I going to get the backlash here? But I think what they're probably looking for is new musicians who are just starting out.
Yeah.
And they want to give them a leg up and be seen to be given a leg up. So it makes perfect sense from that point of view. Of something
and the truth is, I think there's a difference, isn't there, between being an emerging artist who uses a platform like Suno to spin up samples and sample them and put them in your music. That's one thing, and discussion is to be had there. And then there's another thing being Timbaland, who I imagine has got enough money and taking a sponsorship deal with a controversial company when you don't need to do it, really. And I think there's a couple of conversations there. And if anyone out there would like to hear a very extreme perspective of that, go and read Scissor's comments from last week, because she did not pull her punches.
It feels like it's increasing. I don't know what you think. I feel like there's always been artists giving their views on AI, but the recent months there's been some really trenchant people talking and saying, I think it's because every interviewer is asking them, what do you think about AI then? And they give an answer. But I feel like the noise is stepping up a bit, and a lot of bigger artists are coming out and saying, actually, here's why I don't like it.
I feel like it's probably because it goes beyond. I think we've got tech people, right, getting involved in artistry. And I think artists who consider the creative process sacrosanct are sort of saying, this isn't art. And my like very, very fundamental values are being chipped away at here, because this isn't. And I think that I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but that I think that's what needles them, is that they see this and say, this is not art. There is no blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into it. You've not learned the skill to make your expression. You're just pressing a button, and just being good at prompting is not being a good artist, right?
That's weird, isn't it? Because that's a question, isn't it?
Well,
like, where are we going? What world are we going to? Where being good at prompting maybe does make you.
But I don't think. I mean, I would say I think to speak on behalf of all artists, you're welcome. I think that they would argue quite strongly that being good at prompting is just being good at prompting. It's a new skill, but it is not the same. It takes us back really to the letter that Nick Cave wrote when he said, AI can never be art, essentially, because it has not lived, experienced, cried, wept, been happy, whatever, and can't funnel that through the ether into their music. And I think that's the point, and I think that's what they're getting to. For me, it feels like there might be a good future where those human values are increasingly valued, and people want that, and they sort of perhaps accept AI generated music as the sort of filler, Muzak. That's possibly one way it could go.
But I think also what Suno wants here is it's looking for the people who have suffered and who can do lyrics but can't do the music. It wants those people it wants to give them a leg up, and so that's interesting. I think it's looking for now, because it's not about people going, well, I've created a random artist and they're a different race and gender to me, but that's all fine because I can work a prompt. I think what it's looking for is actually musicians now, or lyricists probably, who are using it to make. So it's blurring. There are people who have maybe not who've lived a life that Nick Cave has led, but I think it's interesting. They're obviously, I think they're trying to find the people who they can stand up against that Nick Cave argument.
It's an interesting admission, if you like, from the AI platforms that you need a human to make the music good. You need that human element. The music generated on its own is not enough to cross the threshold of acceptability. And speaking of value, Tidal, streaming platform Tidal, isn't giving any money to wholly AI-generated music. And by wholly, I mean fully, according to its new policies on this area. Quickly, Stu, tell us about this.
Yeah, this happened yesterday. So it's published its AI policy, which is something Spotify's done, Deezer's done, other services talked about it. And some of it's the same. So Tidal's going to allow people to upload AI-generated music to its platform. It's not going to ban it. So it's not going full Bandcamp and banning AI music. It's going to be using detection technology to identify when it's 100% AI music, or to try to. And label it, so you'll see a track and you'll be like, it's AI. It will say a label. Later on, when tech is good enough, it said it would add labels to music that is, and quote, is substantially AI generated too. So for now, it's only things that are entirely AI. And if it sees fraudulent stuff, so weird streaming patterns, the same song being uploaded thousands of times, or stuff pretending to be a famous artist, it'll be blocked and removed. And this is broadly in line with what Spotify and Deezer are doing already. But then the big thing, like you say, is starting today, Tidal says, AI-generated music will not be monetizable, which is a word I've given up on trying to push back on. It's just won't pay royalties for it. It did, and there's a long policy. Like it says, it's sort of pointed to a future where maybe that might change if the AI music platforms are properly licensed. It's in a world where they have licensing deals and everything's kosher. Because I guess then, if it pays royalties to AI music, those royalties will also be flowing back to the original humans.
If we know the provenance,
Yeah.
it goes back to what you were saying, which is if they tell us what they're training on, then we can figure out where each individual song has come from as well, because that is baked into how it's made. So,
so it's very clear. Like, and actually, that whole not paying royalties, like everyone else is paying royalties to it, unless it's fraudulent. And Deezer's big thing is most of it is fraudulent. The plays with AI music, so we get them. But Tidal is saying no, even if it's not fraudulent, we're not going to pay royalties for it. Which is, I think, there was a Universal Music thing a few months ago where they were saying about we'd like it out of the royalties pool for human artists. So I feel like labels have been pushing for this a bit, that this is okay to be on there, but don't pay it any money.
Why? Here's the question that is itching me and has been for a long time, which is, why are all the streaming platforms who have server costs and have to think about their algorithm recommending music on, why are they allowing just an enormous number of AI generated tracks to flood onto their platform? Because they can detect them. They've got data on them. They know that most of them are used for fraudulent purposes. Why aren't they just saying, you know what, if we detect it, it's just not going on the platform. No one's listening to it. Like when it's all sorted out and we've got the licensing sorted, and when people have decided if they like it or not, then we'll let it on the platform.
Wow. Okay, so I've got a few thoughts on that. So one thought is practical. Are they sure they can detect with certainty enough to boot it off? Because if they boot off some humans, then there'll be controversy. And we saw recently there was one human band that got misidentified as AI, So I think that's one of the things that's holding back. I think two is they're not sure if people might want to listen to this. And
but they're saying they don't. I mean, Deezer said that they don't.
Yeah, but that's now. But I think that I'm not sure they're certain yet that no one will want to do it, and they want to hedge their bets in case this becomes a thing, and you've then booted it off.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of that caution over. Well, we don't know yet. Third thought is that they maybe look at some of the people who are doing AI generated music projects and say maybe that could be valuable. The people who the kind of the people who are creating virtual artists and putting human lyrics into it, and it's a project. It's not just pumping out 4,000 songs. So I think they're looking at that and saying, well, maybe that can be on here, and people are listening to it.
I guess it's the absence of a line, isn't it? No one's decided yet. But I mean, not streaming platforms, but as a community of people, we haven't really decided what we do and don't like, and what we consider music and like good, acceptable music, and what we don't. But at the moment, it's a bit like the famous line about pornography. Like, I know it when I see it, but I mean, it's like bad AI music is probably
this is the thing, and I don't think anyone wants, for example, a Spotify or Apple Music to be assessing music quality before letting it on with humans. Like, you don't as a band, you don't want Spotify saying, actually, you're not good enough, we're not getting it on. I mean, that's an impossible task, given how much music. So I suppose maybe that carries you to AI music. Like, if some AI music is good and most is terrible, how are they going to tell what's good before it's on there and people are listening to it? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I mean, that was the role of the music industry, I guess, wasn't it, historically?
Yeah.
That
you could say it's been on for 2 months and it's been streamed twice, so we're kicking it off.
Yeah.
But do they then say that for human music too? Because a lot of human music not good. So I think that's all of that is to say that I think that's probably what they're going through their minds, going, if we're going to say kick it off.
So it's a big question about value ultimately, because if, to use your analogy there, if there's a human piece of music that's bad and doesn't hit a certain threshold of plays within the first 6 months, why not kick it off? If it's not good enough to be listened to, why have it on your platform? Anyway, we'll return to that.
Do you know one more conspiracy theory?
Go on.
It's not necessarily I didn't subscribe to it, but there are people who I've seen muttering, going, well, it's pretty good for Spring if they have loads of AI music they can play to people, especially if they can pay lower royalties for it.
Sure, if you add out a playlist like with piano music.
So that would be the conspiracist model, which is like,
that was what I was leaning towards, by the way.
Well, yeah, like at some point, if you can establish, like Tidal has, that you don't pay royalties for wholly engineered music, and then what if you could shift 5% of the listening towards that music in your playlists?
Sure.
I mean, I don't feel like that's the way. I genuinely don't think that's the way they think. But I know that's a view that's out there that's getting slightly louder and again, I think that's why they have that in mind. Like,
I'm not saying that this is what they're doing, but I would say there's a very coherent argument from the perspective of a global business that sort of only just now starting to put their prices up and doing it slowly and that has a number of shareholders that are increasingly asking for more money back, then you can make money at one end a bit more slowly, but then you can also cut costs at the other end. And one way of doing that would be for types of music. If you've got a playlist of 100 songs and they're all like lightweight piano music, and AI happens to be good at making that music and it all sounds kind of the same, which is broadly speaking true enough, then switched out 30 of those human songs with 30 AI songs and didn't pay royalties to them because that's bad. We don't pay for AI generated music. Suddenly you've saved 30% on that playlist, haven't you? And that might get passed on, I guess, to shareholders.
Well, this is the thing. And as a big public company, arguably, your shareholders would be like, well, why aren't you doing this? If you're Spotify, there's a reputational reason why you're not doing this because humans would be, So, yeah. So, like, that's, I think in all this, when they're deciding what their policies are, this is all in the background, how people will perceive what they're doing and why they're doing it. And so they are being, I think, cautious and saying most of them are saying we're not booting it off. Bandcamp can say that because Bandcamp is about human musicians selling stuff to their fans, so.
Now, talking of making friends, James Blake, any other business, has been making friends in the world of music journalism. Hasn't he, Stu?
He has.
Yeah.
He's a big fellow as well. Like I wouldn't pick a fight with him.
Is he?
Do you know? You wouldn't think he's a big. He's like I when I interviewed him last year. He's like good 3 or 4 inches taller than me, and I'm 6'2".
You're pretty tall, right? He looks slight. I'll be honest.
No, he's a well built sort of man. But yeah, anyway, beyond that,
you got frame mogged by James Blake. Is that right?
It's an anecdote. He's made a habit of speaking out about industry ills, and he was doing it again, I think, on social. And he basically said it was a post about if you're an artist. Remember, this year there's not a single part of the system that isn't faked, and then he put a big list out of everything that's fake. And one of them was can't trust a review because blogs, mags stop making money, so journalists now get paid off by labels. And
that's a big one, isn't it?
And that has made a lot of the declining number of professional music journalists very cross.
Who are saying, in an industry that notoriously makes very little money, music journalism, I'm sure there are people who had a lot of thoughts about that.
Well, I think a lot of people, and a lot the gist, and there's been some good articles written about it. The Far Out magazine had one, Journal and Sound, and they're basically saying, look, we've been absolutely fucked by the business. So like money that the ads have gone, money, and we are surviving on a shoestring if we're surviving at all. And the point in the pushbacks was like, but we're stuck to our principles. How dare you? We write about stuff we love and we don't tell it as is. But the weird thing I thought was that actually a couple of his defenses, they kind of agree with James Blake as well. So Far Out magazine had this sentence where it's saying, some journalists, cheeks smeared in a traitorous red, ran to the big labels who could exchange market security for the price of 5 gold stars. So they were good writers still. But so in a way, they were saying, there were journalists, there were publication journalists who do take money from major labels to give big reviews, and they were agreeing with him and saying we're independent and we're struggling, but it is happening. So I think in a way that them and James Blake are across at the same thing.
Yeah, and he's got a point, right? I mean, first of all, it's sort of the same as it ever was, right? I'm sure when in the heyday of music journalism, big artists would routinely buy a full page, rear page ad, the most expensive one on the magazine, sort of, with the implication that maybe you can add 1 star onto this average new album to get it up to 4 stars. That was sort of the unspoken reality.
I used to work in gaming journalism, and there were some of the discussions about the game on the cover that was actually shit.
Yeah.
Could it get a 7 out of 10 still?
But yeah, I started out as a music blogger in the late noughties, and and I had a very small blog really, but you could make money from Google ads back then, and I would every year I would pay for my holiday thanks to Google ads, and that was all very nice. And then that fell through the floor and disappeared. And there's just 2 sides here, which is like the music journalism world has been totally I was going to say decimated. That strictly means 10% removed. Yeah, completely hollowed out. And we're in a reality now where trust is erased, and there are a lot of people who just want to make they will write about what a label says to them in exchange for free tickets or whatever. That is kind of how it's always been, isn't it?
It's difficult, I think, because one thing that's happening, I think, is in the world of streaming, where anyone can listen to anything, you don't really need a journalist to tell you something's shit anymore. So actually, journalism is more about, this is brilliant, you should hear it, because you might not find it otherwise.
Yeah.
So you don't really get, negative reviews. I remember someone Pitchfork once wrote about, there isn't much point in negative reviews now.
Yes.
Because you want to find the good stuff that someone won't discover. So I think everything is more positive in that sense, but it doesn't mean you can't. You're not being bought off.
Also,
But also,
it feels a bit like punching down, doesn't it? Now, unless you're saying, "Hey, that new U2 album is shit," it's like everyone knows how hard it is to be a musician.
Here's this brilliant new artist you should know, and they're
Why would you say this album's bad when you know things are really hard for them?
But the other thing I think is that music journalists, music critics are now they're competing for attention with the world of influencers, TikTokers, Snapchatters, Instagrammers, and that is a world rife with people being paid to say something's brilliant. I mean, we had this whole thing recently about the whole kind of the psyops and the campaigns that world is. If someone is saying this is a brilliant new song, you kind of I now assume, oh, well, they've probably been paid as part of a marketing campaign, and they may or may not be disclosing it as they're supposed to do. And I feel like that's the other tough thing. So I think if James Blake really wants to give someone a sort of a kicking, I think maybe he'd be better off looking at that side, because that's a side that's not only much more rife with paid, undisclosed stuff, but also that's what's pressuring the music journalists who want to do things the right way, because they're not on TikTok getting millions of views.
My final thought here is that I thought for a long time that, just like you said, that music journalism now, yes, in the good olden days, you would read the reviews in the Melody Maker and the NME to know what to go and buy, right? So you would get that would be the preview. You don't need that now; you can listen to it immediately. So it's about discovery. Like, here's something you would have missed. But I do think there's actually, and I think this is coming back. I think people are looking for this increasingly, and I'm talking about the kids these days, not us people in our more advanced years. They're looking for. It's essentially that idea of community. They want context. They want to know why they should like this, because they don't like it. So and this is a very common experience. With music, that you'll hear an album or something and think, I don't like it. It's not immediate. It doesn't grab me instantly. I'll move on to the next thing. And that's what streaming enables. It sort of encourages you to go, I don't like the first 10 seconds. I'm going to the next thing. But you're missing a lot of richness and value and importance. And I think that people are starting to understand that a bit. And as opposed to sort of skating from one dopamine hit song to another, they're looking for depth. And that will only come through context and sort of an encouragement to stay with it and say, hey, listen to the whole album, then listen to it again knowing this, and then listen to it again, and keep doing that until you like it, which is something which is completely contrary to the way we're told to consume media these days.
This is always the thing about music journalism, isn't it? You kind of, for what you got paid for an album review compared to the time, you listen to an album 5 times at least to review it, if you're doing it properly. But I think the other thing, to give him his credit, James Blake did follow up with a post, and he basically said it was kind of a slightly reverse Verity, not all journalists post, but he did say he feels bad for the increasingly underpaid critics and journalists with integrity. He acknowledged that he had come up with them and they played a key role in his breakthrough. And he said, I'm watching you being replaced one by one for figures who will say what is asked of them. So I think, again, I don't think I think he's on a similar page to some of the critics who've been criticizing him. I think they're all lamenting the fact that there is more of this going on. But people did get umbrage.
Okay, and finally, almost before we get to and finally, another letter from artists. 200 artists this week signed an open letter calling for a fossil fuel treaty. Who's signing, and what is a fossil fuel treaty, and what does that have to do with music?
Yeah, well, it's more than 200 artists signing it. And what they want is world leaders to support a fossil fuel treaty, which basically would sort of codify, we are going to move away from fossil fuels, which does, we're obviously both lefty, woke, liberal, greeny people, but this feels like something that's been for like decades now. We should move away from fossil fuels, and yet we're still here going, we should move away from fossil fuels. But it's the holy trinity of artists who've been sticking their neck out on the line for this. It's Brian Eno, Coldplay, and Massive Attack, who I'm not taking the piss there. All 3 of them have actually put their money and their research where their mouths are on this. Robert Smith, Michael Stipe, and it's also photographers, actors, and basically it's saying, I think the gist of it is that this is soft power. If we speak, we can speak out, and we might be able to influence politicians to almost to go back at, like, I was thinking about this yesterday, like, there's been a real pushback against getting rid of fossil fuels, funded by some very powerful, rich companies and some political leaders who are very much in their pockets in recent years. And we're having to relitigate this debate about, well, maybe we should do greener energy, renewable energy. So that's the dispiriting thing about this. So kind of almost having an argument that could have been had 20 years ago, and you might have seen artists signing a petition saying...
Such is the nature of the argument, right? Because it's such a huge macro scale thing, the climate emergency. And, the artists, like you're saying, they're doing this soft power thing. And again, I don't think a lot is going to happen directly because of this open letter in terms of government suddenly going, oh, I see what you mean.
But if Coldplay say,
yeah, right. But it's about opening the door and giving permission and making it feel okay for other artists, for fans to get on board. And as a collective voice, as you said before, if everybody's on the same page, it's really hard for politicians to keep doing the wrong thing. And they are doing the wrong thing.
And I think this comes into a thing we've been talking about recently, isn't it? Like this is not about all those artists saying it's my responsibility to save the planet or fans. Yeah. It's about saying the people who need to do this are the world leaders and the fossil fuel companies. It's turning the spot into them and saying, look, they're the ones who can really make a difference here. We need to tell them.
There's two sides to this, because we published another story this week, which is about you can tell us about in a second, which is about the music streaming platform Deezer collaborating with who was it? The
Music Climate Pact.
The Music Climate Pact, which is a sort of record label oriented climate organization, and they published 10 tips on how to lower your environmental impact when streaming. And essentially those tips are probably what you already know, which is don't stream video if you can stream audio, don't replace your phone so often, all these kind of tips, but they are solid. And if you scale those up by 1 billion music streamers, then it will have a sort of aggregated impact. And that's the two sides of making a difference in the climate, isn't it? Which is, on one hand, we can all chip in and do something and make an aggregated difference across billions of people. But that is also not, and we should be doing that, but that is also not the point, because there's, if you break it down, there's sort of a handful, by which like a couple of dozen main polluters in the world. Saudi Aramco, for instance, I think they provide that one company alone is responsible for 4% of the carbon emissions in the world. Which is enormous. And so there's these big entities that are doing it, and so there's actually two sides to it, and they can coexist, and both of these approaches are sort of meaningful at the same time.
Yeah, I want to. I'm going to have credit here, because I credit my wife Alice, who works with us at Music Ally. Yes. She said this, not me, but I'm going to steal it, but with credit. And she was saying the one thing about these small things we can do is it's true. It's that we can't. But it's what helps people get up in the morning in the face of this daunting crisis. So actually, sometimes feeling like you're taking action, however small, is what helps you carry on carrying, and not just go break down in like, oh my God, this is just impossible. What is the point?
If it feels hopeless, apathy means inertia, means no change, and you've got to have hope and to keep going, haven't you? Yeah. And finally, Stu, now
a change of tack now.
For you listeners out there,
I could do this. Talking of carbon.
Yes. Thank you. When Stu and I want some recommendations of classic, influential hip-hop bangers, there's nothing we like better than seeking them out from a maker of fizzy lemonade-adjacent drinks. So this week, Stu, we've been celebrating what?
We've been celebrating the partnership of Sprite and Genius.
Wow.
So Sprite being the fizzy drinks brand, and Genius being, the website with all the annotations of lyrics, which I think hip hop was its foundational genre.
It was Rap Genius, wasn't it?
It was Rap Genius, and then it kind of expanded. And it's been going for a long time, a bit changed ownership thing, but it's still here. And they actually did this thing. They got a panel together of like journalists and cultural tastemakers, so genuinely interesting people, and got them to choose 50 hip hop tracks, which it's not like the best hip hop tracks ever. It's like the ones that had influence over the genre and the culture and the world around them. So it's like a influence rankings list. And it goes from James Brown in 1973, so the roots of hip hop sampling, through to Glorilla and Gunna in 2024.
Okay.
And everything on there has been chosen because there was significant for some reason in moving things forward or reflecting the world at the time. And
so I'm down with this. Can you explain the connection to lemonade adjacent drink Sprite?
Well, I mean,
it's a refreshing drink and it's a refreshing playlist. Is that what you're?
Maybe that, yeah. But Sprite is going to be putting lyrics on cans and bottles.
Oh, really?
So it's some shelf stuff going on. I thought it was interesting that there's a Kanye West track in there, but as far as I can tell, no Diddy fronted track. So that gives you a little neat illustration of where the line is between cancellation and not cancellation. But I think it's, I see a lot of branded things, and I just raise my eyebrows and go, "Oh, this is a headline today, and everyone's forgotten it tomorrow."
Yeah.
Which is possible here, but this is like there's some thought and intention behind this, and I like that. And I think it's interesting for people who know their hip hop inside out because they'll argue about what's not on there. But also for newcomers, like it's a real walk through. These are why these things were significant. And then for me, like I mean, my nostalgic era is the De La Soul, Cypress Hill, Daisy Chain moving into. I don't know, moving like there's a whole era of that, and I looked at this is my favorite, wow, amazing. But then I kind of look forward and go, actually, well, I'm going to listen to some of the stuff that's further forward.
You know what? I mean, this is a good example of having actual guidance and the context that you need to explore outside of your boundaries, isn't
From
it?
people.
And it is that. It is that. It's almost music journalism, and so thank you.
Yeah, and these people, interesting. These people on this panel, there's a good YouTube video of them having their debate about what should be doing. It's like you go, isn't it great? Sort of not arguing as in aggressively arguing, but wasn't it great debating about music? And like, it looks, and you think, quite a few of those people have come from journalism when there was a journalism to support them.
Yeah.
I do think it reminded me, we need to have ways that people can develop their critical thinking like that, and then
the kind of good chats that you have in a lock-in at a pub. And for those of you who are not subscribers to our superfan tier on Patreon, well, you'll be missing out later on our lock-in, where we'll have a Little Grandad update. We'll be talking a little bit more about music prediction markets, and we'll be appraising the World Cup of music. All that coming up for our Patreon superfans. But that's it from us this week. Some housekeeping for the next couple of weeks. Next week, we have our summer holiday week off, and me and Stu will be heading off to our static caravan in Pwllheli to sun ourselves on the beach. And then we'll be back with the following week with an interview from the team who are making Eco Record, which is a sort of vinyl-like record made out of recycled plastic bottles. And so that should be an interesting chat. So keep your eye out for that. Thanks very much for listening. If you're enjoying the show, please do spread the word. You can support us as well via Patreon by signing up to become a superfan, which gets you access to our lock-in, which I just described. And that's an extra 20 minutes or so of stuff each week. You can become a superfan at patreon.com/thepriceofmusic. We always appreciate your star ratings and shares and likes and subscribes and all those kind of things. And please do get in touch with us about anything we've spoken about or anything you would like us to speak about. Drop us a line with your questions. It's thepriceofmusic@gmail.com. It's not that at all. It's the price of music podcast @gmail.com. That's the price of music podcast @gmail.com. Got it right, finally. That's it. Thanks, Stu. Good to see you as ever. Thanks to all of you out there. He's been Stu. I've been Joe. You've been you. And see you next time.